Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Coast Star, the official newspaper of the Borough of Belmar, and the Asbury Park Press on January 3rd, 2023, and notice of this meeting was posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building. Take roll call. Councilwoman Donovan? Here. Councilwoman Kinney? Here. Mayor Buckle-Pascal?
Here.
Councilman Rosendaro? Here. Councilman Levis?
Here. Okay, would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for our troops, their families, and all of our first responders. Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with our workshop discussion, and right at the beginning, we are going to have a little ceremony honoring two individuals, lifeguards, Amy White and Ross O'Neill. So if they want to come up, we'll
Got it just in time.
Thank you guys for coming.
Here. Oh, this time. There you go.
We're thrilled you guys could be here. We're thrilled to finally honor you for your accomplishments this summer. And so the Borough of Belmar, New Jersey respectfully honors Amy White in recognition of finishing first place in not one, not two, but 3 categories: the Open Women's Surfboat, the Open Women's Single Surfboat, and the Open Mixed Surfboat at the United States Life-Saving Association Lifeguard Nationals on August 7th, 2023 in Virginia Beach. Thank you, everyone. And the borough would also like to respectfully honor Ross O'Neill, who finished first place in the Beach Flag Masters Division at the United States Life-Saving Association Lifeguard Nationals on August 7th, 2023 in Virginia Beach. Thank you. Does the lifeguards want to come up?
Lifeguards want to come up for
Come on,
Second,
Pretend like you know each other. Alright. Ready? Gonna have 1, 2, 3. Anyone else wants to take a couple? Alright, we're all good.
second thing we'll talk about up here at the council is there was a draft zoning ordinance that was prepared by the zoning board, and I thought I'd give the council an opportunity to have any comments or questions about it. You should have all received the letter from the attorney, Mr. Kovats from the planning board, along with the proposed ordinance. Does anyone have any questions on it? To just let the public know that the two issues that are going to be covered by the ordinance would be a slight addition to the impervious area, say definition, and the second part of that, not really of that, but the second part of the ordinance would be some verbiage on having a pool house. So in the impervious area one, it's really a matter of adding to the 50% impervious coverage loose stone and or gravel in driveways or walkway areas. Right? That is what would be added to the current ordinance. Right. The second, anybody have any questions on that before I go to the next? Go ahead.
No, I don't have any questions, Mayor, because I was,
We were there.
This was done by the planning board, but,
Yeah.
For the rest of the council, this really just had to do with, a lot of stone driveways and things being considered, not impervious when in reality they were, depending on how they were used. So it was just a way to sort of clarify it and make sure we're not, calling something impervious when it's actually not.
Right. And just so, just to round it out, because I haven't looked this up myself, there are like three different things that constitute this 50% impervious area. The first one that's already in the ordinance is the permeable interlocking concrete or brick pavement constructed in accordance with Interlocking Concrete Paving Institute Technical Specification 18. So that's already in the ordinance. That's also considered 50% impervious. And the other one was the unroofed boardwalk type decks, which allow for some percolation of stormwater. So that's already in the ordinance. So being added to that now is loose stone and or gravel when used to develop a driveway or walkway areas. So I just wanted to give the council a chance to see that, talk about it, and I assume if we're all in agreement, we'll probably have this on first reading at the next meeting. Any comments, questions?
The other item that was on there was the pool houses.
Yeah, why don't you take the pool?
There was a lot of back and forth in
Yeah.
determining what we were considering a pool house was, and really that was the whole purpose of the recommendation from the planning board, was just to define what that is and to define what it can be. Because they want to make sure that it can't ever be converted into a living space where someone can have a back house now, right? So that was really there was a lot of debate at the planning board as to how we want to call this. Should it have heat or air conditioning? And the ruling was no, it shouldn't, because it's a pool house.
Yeah, so can you tell us the differences between an apartment and a pool house? Because
Well-
pool houses can be pretty cozy.
Yeah, well, that's the point. It's not supposed to, it's only allowed to have a half bath. It's not allowed to have any living space. It's not allowed
No
to have
shower.
any,
Why don't I read
yeah.
let me just read the proposed ordinance that Mr. Kovats said. It says a one-story, ground-level detached accessory structure with a closed roof permitted to serve a lawfully existing and approved in-ground swimming pool on a residential property to be used for recreational or storage purposes associated with the residential use of the property. Only one pool house is permitted per residential property. In addition, the pool house shall comply with the accessory structure requirements for the zone in relation to the bulk requirements, location, yard, lot coverage, and setback. A pool house is not permitted to have heating and or cooking equipment, nor contain air conditioning, but may contain a half bath with limited hot, that's supposed to be water heater capacity. And then it goes on to say a deed restriction containing the following language to be filed with the Monmouth County Clerk's Office. And this was what Mr. Kovats put in as the deed restriction. The grantor and grantee specifically represent and warrant that this deed contains a deed restriction whereby the pool house use will not contain heating equipment, bedroom and/or living quarters, kitchen, or be designed for cooking or sleeping. This deed restriction is intended to prohibit conversion to a habitable space. And so that's the actual text of the proposed amendment. So, any question? I actually have a question for Counselor. When I was going through this, I noticed the deed restriction is a little bit, the verbiage is a little bit different. I think the intent is the same, but should the deed restriction be different than what's in the ordinance, or should it be the same?
Well, the deed restriction itself is required by the ordinance, so it is part of the ordinance. What do you find that's different?
No, I mean, it was like little things like, they talk about, well, the ordinance doesn't say anything about bedroom and living quarters, and they make a specific mention of it in the deed restriction. The deed restriction doesn't say not containing air conditioning, and, you know, it's just
No,
those
they
little
should
types of
mimic
things.
each other in that regard. Certainly.
But as long as they're all in the ordinance, what you're saying is that it's okay.
Well, I don't know why they should mimic each other. I don't know why you would write an ordinance that says you have to have a deed restriction that says one thing, and when you're defining the pool house itself, you don't put that restriction in there, so it's not hard to do, and they
Okay, well,
probably
maybe we'll
should
need
mirror each
to
other.
run that by the planning board, you know, at the next meeting, or maybe we can get
I think we
Mr.
could,
Colbatz.
I think we could just get Mr. Gomez to
Yeah,
look at
take a look at it.
before we introduce amendments for.
Okay,
That definition would allow refrigeration, I would think, a refrigerator.
which definition?
The definition that's in the ordinance, it just prohibits cooking.
Right.
I don't know what the intent is. If the intent is to have a refrigerator or permitted, that's fine with me. It's just a policy call.
Right.
But I don't know why you
Okay.
would do that.
Like a grill,
Probably should prohibit all appliances.
would a grill be separate than actual cooking? I mean,
A grill is a form of cooking.
okay, so you can't have a grill near there, or I mean, most people grill by their.
Well, you can't have a grill
Yeah,
in it,
inside.
you can have a grill next to it.
Okay, gotcha. Okay,
I
gotcha.
wouldn't be opposed to it.
No, I think
Plug-in
I think
appliance
we
would
talked
seem
about that.
fine, because you really can't dictate what someone's gonna
Talking like
plug in.
appliances.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just don't want someone to live in it.
Yeah.
That's at the end of the day, we don't want
Gotcha.
more back houses.
Okay, any other questions on that? I have two other things that I wanted to mention, maybe it's just one other thing. Update on the Hilton Ladder Firehouse. We are happy to say that the electrical work has been completed. DPW is doing patchwork and repainting. As we speak, it might actually be completed. Mr. Kane is working on having, there's one section that needs new ceiling tiles in the grid. Those will be replaced, and there's another section that needs a whole new grid. And we're working on getting those things installed in short order. The other issue that had come about in our discussions was the fume exhaust system that was not operational. That's the system that gets hooked up to the vehicle to exhaust the diesel fumes. And I'm happy to say that has been fixed, and we've eliminated another threat to the health and safety of the firefighters and staff. So I'm happy to say I think we've done, Mr. Kane and Billy have done a great job in trying to get this whole thing fixed and get our guys and gals back into their firehouse. The last thing I'm going to just mention to the council, I'm not sure if you all know about this, but officials from the Department of New Jersey Transportation have requested a meeting with us, along with officials from Monmouth County, to discuss the replacement of the Main Street Route 71 bridge over Sharp River. We have a meeting scheduled on November 2nd, and obviously we'll have more information to you after that. but I'm sure if you've been around Main Street, you've seen a lot of drilling or soil sampling being done over the last week or two or three. And that's in preparation, I guess, for some of the things that they're planning to do. So right now we have no information other than the fact that they're planning on doing this. We don't know when, we don't know how, but we'll have more information for you after the meeting. Any questions or concerns?
It's about 4 years ago they started that process. And
Yeah.
they had a couple public meetings. I recall they had one in Avon. I would imagine we'll have another public meeting before they ever do any groundbreaking. And I imagine they're still a couple of years away from doing
Yeah,
anything.
probably.
We'll find out more on the.
Yes, we can find out on the second.
It's your understanding that would probably remain a drawbridge that they're not gonna try and do?
That's what they were proposing. Originally, they were talking about not doing a drawbridge, but they would have had to cut significantly into Main Street in Belmar and in Avon. And that was met with some pretty fierce resistance.
Yeah.
So the idea was to continue with the double vestibule bridge like we have now.
Great.
And then just not the train bridge, we're talking about just the actual driving
Just the
car.
Main Street.
Yeah,
bridge,
it's just the DOT bridge. Okay, anyone else have anything for the workshop?
I have something for workshop. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 27 applications for the military veteran program. Just in time for Veterans Day, we'll have some of our hometown heroes pictures and banners on the light posts down on Main Street. I'd really like to extend my thanks to the mayor, our council, our business administrator, all of our borough employees who sponsored banners and helped us get this project completed. It was very meaningful that everyone on this day were sponsors, and the veterans who came needing a sponsor were very grateful. Also, we received sponsors from the community who wanted to help those who couldn't afford, but certainly deserved to be recognized, so we thank them. It's really been an honor speaking with so many veterans and their families and their neighbors, coworkers, the past 2 weeks, whether it was memories of their service, memories of their loved ones lost, or just their love of country. It was really touching because they are extremely important. They make up the fabric of Belmar, and we are grateful to them. I want to thank DPW in advance for putting up these banners. I hope this is an initiative that's not just a one-year initiative. I'd like this to be a regular program, and I'd like to continue discussing funding and or fundraising so we can continue to build on this project for future years. But thank all of you. Thank you.
I'm just going to add that the banners will be retained from year to year by us, and so they can be placed. Okay. Anything else for workshop? Okay, let's move on to approval of minutes.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 10, 2023 meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckle-Fusco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rondinero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, reports of council. Councilwoman Donovan?
Hopefully a lot of you saw the new newsletter that went out. If you haven't and you're interested in receiving it, you can text 888-777 Belmar News to sign up for that. We have a photographer in the house. I'd like to thank Marion Townsend for allowing us to use her photo for the headliner, the first one. If anyone would like to submit anything, is the newsletter at gmail@belmar.com? If anyone would like to submit anything, either a photo, an announcement, anything like that, you can email it to newsletter@belmar.com. So, and the idea is to go out on every other Tuesday. So the Tuesdays we don't have meetings, newsletter. There will be a Veterans Music Fest on November 11th over at DJ's. Doors open at 1 p.m. $20 admission. I believe it goes until 8 o'clock. All proceeds will go to help veterans with outdoor training therapy programs. That will include, I believe, even equine classes, and swimming. So outdoor therapy programs for veterans. It's a great event. I encourage everyone to take part in that.
I think that's it.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Okay, thank you so much, Mayor. On the ADA front, I'm happy to announce that our awesome DPW did paint some of the handicap spots in town that did need to be repainted, those 3 or 4 that we identified, with the exception of the one spot that's on 8th Avenue across the street from St. Rose, because cars are constantly in that spot, so we're all gonna say prayers that someone moves so that we can get that spot repainted very soon. And then tentatively, our next ADA meeting is going to be next Thursday, November 2nd. Not a lot to report on the Shade Tree Commission. The next meeting there is November 9th at 6:30. Around recreation, trunk or treat this Friday. Don't forget, October 27th. It's on 12th Ave this year, so not out front here. It's outside Belmar Elementary. Registration for the costume contest starts 4:30 to 5:30. And trunk or treat starts at 6 p.m. The Beach Music Rock Band kids are going to be there. They're going to start playing around 4:30, so come early so you can see the rock band play. And then afterwards, there's going to be a 6:30 outdoor screening across the street in the field of the Hocus Pocus. So everybody can come across the street and watch a movie outside. And the weather is supposed to be awesome this week, so that's great. Youth Club starts November 18th. And we're inviting kids from 3rd through 8th grade to come join us at Youth Club. Registration is happening now. Basketball sign-ups are also started now. There's 2 programs, kindergarten to 1st graders, and then 2nd through 8th graders. All the information is on the recreation website. Also on the recreation website, it's up and running. You can donate to the Belmar Skate Park. Go to belmar.com, recreation, and then go to facilities. Under facilities are all the parks in town. Click on the skate park, and there is a spot there that you can donate. If you'd rather, you could drop off a check or cash here at Borough Hall. So please donate to the skate park. Around the schools, for Belmar Elementary, I just have October 26th is the lip sync show, right, this Thursday. Not a lot going on at St. Rose Grammar this time around, but St. Rose High School would like to remind everybody the centennial is November 11th. It is a mass at 5 p.m. on Saturday, and then reception to follow from 6:30 to 10:30 at Spring Lake Golf Club. The Pat Roddy Band will be playing. They'll be our entertainment. And if you would like to buy tickets, you still can do so at strosehightschoolnj.com. And at the top of the website, there is a link for Centennial. Click on there and you can get your tickets and find information out there. And then lastly, there is a Veterans Day service. It's going to be Friday, November 10th at Memorial Park, Memorial Field. It's not actually going to be on Veterans Day. It's going to be on the Friday, the 10th at 9:30 a.m. So please come out for that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rondinero.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the library board meeting last Monday. Effective November 1st, the Belmar Library is expanding their availability and will be open 7 days a week. So that includes Sundays from 12 to noon. Please visit our website for updated hours of operation and for the rest of the week. Also starting November 1st, toddler story time will move to Mondays and Wednesdays at 10 a.m. I think they were at 9:30 before. All Belmar families are invited to come and enjoy Mr. Ray's concert for kids. That's Saturday, October 28th at noon at Taylor Pavilion. He will entertain kids with pop rock and original music focusing on positive themes like kindness, inclusion, diversity, staying healthy, and much more. It's going to be great for families with kids, grades 8, K through 8. Also, our next cultural celebration is Diwali, the Festival of Lights, Thursday evening, November 9th at 6:30, featuring Bollywood and classic Indian dance performances and a sampling of Indian cuisine from Bombay River Restaurant. And then you can also visit the website to register to attend. The Belmar Housing Authority's next meeting is November 6th. And they are working on getting their outdated elevator, getting a major overhaul and getting it modernized and up to code. It's going to take 2 to 4 weeks for drawings and 8 to 10 weeks for equipment production. But while the elevator is down, the residents will have use of the free elevator. I also received, and Mayor, I wanted to ask you if you've received any information on this. I received an email from a resident today asking when NJ DOT will be putting up the new crosswalk. as it's now 4 years since that fatal pedestrian accident occurred.
We haven't heard any more from them, but for what they sent us back, and I think it was January,
Okay.
in terms of what they were gonna do.
Can we
Maybe
lean
we
on
can-
them hard, or I know
Maybe we
you
can
can see
bring that
them
up
November
at the
2nd?
meeting with the bridge. Might be different people, but there's no harm in asking.
Yeah, thank you. If we can push for that hard, however, whoever we need to be squeaky wheel for, because it's still quite a safety risk and it's a high priority. Thanks.
Thank you. Council President Levis?
Thank you, Mayor. We had our last Harbor Commission meeting on Tuesday. We briefly discussed slip fees. One of the things we're going to be doing at the next Harbor Commission meeting, that's November 14th at 6 p.m. here, is sort of debating what the slip fees are. They've been the same for close to 6 years now, and we're looking at possibly raising some, possibly lowering others, depending on where demand is for the boats. We're also looking at trying to remove some of those as-is slips if we can. One of the other things we discussed was the possibility of putting a fuel surcharge on fuel to make repairs to the fuel dock. Obviously, we want the people who are using the fuel dock to be the ones paying for repairs to the fuel dock. So those are just some of the things we discussed. We hope to have, we plan to have a resolution at the next Harbor Commission meeting to present to the council to set the fees for 2024 for the marina. We'd like to get that out pretty well in advance, so there's no shock to people when they're going to renew their slips. That's all I have, other than reminder to the public that Election Day is November 7th, so the next council meeting will be on November 28th. So please don't show up here on November 7th, we won't be here. No, 14th is Harbor Commission meeting here.
Councilman Levis, I have a quick question. Where are we at with the fuel dock? Do we have any updates?
Yeah, we don't have the other pump online yet, but we got the floats in. Kevin, you can probably answer this a little better than I can.
Yeah, exactly. The repairs have been made, floats are in. I think there's a couple more tweaks that need to be made to them. Billy, Bellingham Marine kind of oversaw the project, supplied the materials, and then Albert Marine actually did the work. And the way they discussed putting the float in really wasn't the way it was actually installed, so they need to make a couple tweaks to it to put it in the way it's supposed to be. That basically it, Bill?
Yeah, that's correct.
So how many pumps are actually working right now? Just still the one?
The one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I believe Councilwoman Donovan had one more
Did
thing.
not want to forget to mention this. Last night, we had a wonderful event at Taylor Pavilion for Belmar Cares, which is a breast cancer support group here in Belmar with the Atlantic Wind Ensemble, orchestra rather. I wanted to mention this for two reasons. One, I've worked in my professional capacity with hundreds of cancer patients over the last 10 years, and so many of them talk about how isolating cancer can feel. And so the importance of groups like this cannot be overstated. If you didn't get to make it last night, you can still donate to the group. They donate to 3 other charities in the area that do breast cancer support, along with providing support to women or men in Belmar who are diagnosed with breast cancer. If you'd like to still donate, you can do that by contacting either Claire Dykey, who founded the group, or Pat O'Keefe. And if you don't know how to get in touch with them, come see me and I can point you in the right direction. And that being said, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so I would like to encourage everyone, when you leave tonight, to take a look at the pink line down there on Main Street that's painted. That is not just in recognition of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but as a show of support for everyone in town to the cancer community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we're going to move on to resolutions and the public session. If anyone would like to make any comments on the resolutions that are on the agenda, please step up to the microphone now.
Seeing none, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the resolutions as listed on the consent agenda?
Motion?
Second.
Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafusco?
Yes.
Councilman Rondonero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
Okay, we don't have any ordinances, so next is public session. This is on any item. Please step forward, remember to state your name and address.
Hi there, Linda Natanagara, 101 River Court, and I have a question about Public Works, and we love Public Works, they're our street heroes, but we do have an issue with an absentee owner on 16th, and they let the greenery grow into the sidewalk, so now it's at the level where it hits your face, it hits strollers. I've submitted a complaint last year, it was taken care of for about a year, but recently it's grown again. I submitted a complaint online. It was either the 10th, 11th, or 12th of October. And you don't get a response when you do that, like a chain of, well, this, because I know that the owners have rights. They have to notify them, but you don't really find that out. You have to call and complain again before someone tells you. So I think an automated response to a complaint would be a really good thing. And also, as of last night, that was still not taken care of. So if somebody could let those owners know it needs doing, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do at times, after we notify them, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, April, but the town will at times go in and cut grass and things like that, and then they charge the owners for that. So I'm assuming that's what would happen in this case?
Yes, that's correct. Actually, I did receive an email. I don't know if it was from you? All right, so I forwarded the email to code enforcement, and I followed up with Bob Poff this morning, and he'll determine when Public Works needs to step in and cut everything back.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any other comments, Linda?
Good evening, Linda Sharkus, 4th Avenue. I have a number of old business that I'd like to see if I could have addressed. The Mermaid, that was a donation from one of our residents to the town. It was taken down probably 4 or 5 months ago. I was wondering when it will be installed at the entrance to Belmar on 10th Avenue.
I'd have to ask either Mr. Kane or Mr. Musto. That's the one that might happen.
We need electric before we could start the construction, so we have a service call into JCP&L to drop a power source at the new spot, and we're just basically waiting for JCP&L to come out and do their work.
What is their turnaround time on a request? Or how long has it been since I think you mentioned this probably a month ago.
Yeah, it's been upwards of a month.
Okay. All right, I'd love to see that in place before it gets damaged being in the yard. The second is, it's my understanding that we've paid our money for the piano, for Piano Plaza. Has the location of where the piano will be placed been identified, and could you share that with the members of the community?
I don't believe so. I think Mr. Kane was reaching out to
David Sanchez.
Dave Sanchez, yes.
Dave's supposed to be in the end of this week, and we were determining, when he comes in, we're all gonna meet again and figure out exactly where, it's gonna go.
And when's the expectation on delivery of this piano? Will we see it before Christmas?
No, not before Christmas.
So what's their estimate on when we'll see the piano?
Well,
It was originally, what?
12 weeks.
12 weeks.
5 weeks in production.
Unfortunately, it's being made in Israel. So we do not know what if any delays might. There may be no delay, but we're going to be watching, see if we get any correspondence from them on that.
Yeah, matter of fact, we were just talking to the attorneys about that, and we're gonna make a call to the salesman to find out what's going on.
Thank you. The other thing we haven't heard anything about is a public safety building on 12th and Main. Where are our ambulances going? What's happening with this building? Right now, it's really an eyesore.
So what's the plan?
I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. King, but the ambulances are being stored in the prior,
Like, come on.
South Belmar, Lake Como,
And Manasquan.
and Manasquan, right? That's where they're being stored at the current time.
So if we have an emergency, we have to wait for them to get to Belmar because.
Well, there's one in Lake Como. There's an ambulance in Lake Como.
So is the plan to bring them back to Belmar?
Eventually, yes.
And where do you envision those going?
It's hard to say at the present time because there are, and this is in conjunction with some of the other developmental work that's going on in the town. So, we're not 100% sure where that would be. There are a number of different options which are really not up for discussion at this point. But they will be returned to Belmar, absolutely.
Okay, so what's the plan for 12th and Main? You've spoken about having 3 options.
Right.
Have you made any decisions on what option Belmar might select?
Not yet, and I don't know that we're probably going to be making it very, very quickly, I think. Probably, I don't know, we've had discussions back and forth as to what could be used, that property could be used for, and we will be coming, we do need to make a decision on that sooner rather than later.
Yeah, currently the fire trucks from Hook and Ladder are in that building right now while we're doing the electrical work. So when the 11th Avenue Firehouse is finished, they're gonna be moving their equipment back and then we'll make a decision on what we're doing.
But Linda does bring up a good point, because we still need to clean up contamination, right? I know there's wells that are monitoring contamination, but don't we still need to remediate the contamination in the front of that building?
Correct, and they're even installing another well across the street for monitoring
But the
purposes.
wells don't actually do anything to clean it, right? It's just kind of monitoring groundwater?
Monitoring the plume.
Okay, why are we just monitoring? Why are we just not cleaning it up? There's money in escrow for that, to clean that up.
300,000.
Yeah.
But we don't decide what occurs. There's I forget the initial, the license, LSRP.
So
who's
there's
in
the people
control.
that decide who and when that gets
Yes.
cleaned up?
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct, that's Kevin
Relative
Saddles.
thing.
Kevin Saddles,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
licensed soil remediation specialist.
Yeah.
It just seems like it's going on and on, we should just get it done, right? If you wanna sell it, we can't sell it until we clean it anyway, right? I mean, that's kind of the situation.
Right, that would be,
I mean,
yeah,
we
that
should
would,
keep it, in my opinion, but if we're gonna sell it, we have to clean it up.
right. But we need to rely on the LSRP because they're in essence, taking this place of DEP.
Okay, so still a couple more old business. 3 key people left Belmar: John Sabia, Ryan Delia, and Samantha Waters. Samantha announced her resignation in September, and we still haven't replaced an HR person. What's the plan for replacing these people? Or, we need social media. It would be good if we got back on board, having a venue besides the newsletter to keep people apprised of what's going on.
Okay.
Fire
well,
marshal,
To go to the 3 things, there's an advertisement out right now for a human resources person. We are collecting resumes, and after the closing date, those resumes will be reviewed and we'll go through the selection process. Mr. Kane and I believe the fire marshal and Chief Scott and I believe April Claudio have interviewed 4 individuals for the fire marshal spot, and we're coming up with a selection fairly soon, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the last one was the social media director. For now, we're using the services of Mr. Walsh, who is covering all the events as well as running them, and that's what we're going to do for the time being.
isn't that more like tourism as opposed to social media?
I don't know.
All right. Then, could I address ask Mark on this one?
Sure, we like that.
Mark,
Okay.
you asked for a thorough investigation of what was going on between the fire department and
That investigation's still open right now, so.
when do you expect that information to become available?
When I review it, which I have not had a chance to see all the information yet, the borough attorney has been conducting the investigation for us amongst all the individuals that we asked to.
If I could just jump in on that, I have interviewed a number of people and have looked at documents on this matter, and I'm not sure that a report is ever going to be made public. But we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it, because it is a personnel matter at its heart. So we'll have to respect that. So I'm not certain that we're going to publish any report whatsoever.
Okay. And last but not least, we had issues with the Taylor Pavilion this year and getting it filled. When are you looking to go out for bid on the venue at the north end of the Taylor Pavilion?
I can't give you an exact date, but I give you a scenario that might explain it. We are going to be putting in the permanent bathrooms in the part of that space that was traditionally leased in the past. And I don't think we'll be in a position to say when or if we'll lease out the remaining of that space until we see how the bathroom construction proceeds.
Okay,
So,
let me rephrase my question. Are you going to give away that asset for $1?
no.
Okay, thank you. Happy to hear that. Thanks for your time.
Jim DiOrio, 217-8. Quick question about the planning board changes.
Yes.
Was anyone from the zoning board communicated with on that whole issue? Because as a member of the zoning board, Barry Lubin also, the issue of plumbing, electric, heat, air conditioning is a big issue for members of the zoning board. And we've had some contentious meetings over this, and I would have thought that our input would have been given to the planning board, but to my knowledge, I don't know, Barry?
I don't think I'm aware of that. Maybe I'll ask April to reach out to
Well,
Mr. Kovats.
the review of the ordinance by the planning board came from recommendations from the zoning board on their year-end report from last year.
Okay, because Barry and I weren't on the zoning board from last year. Okay.
Right, it was the zoning board that requested the mayor and council consider creating definition on a pool house and clarifying the impervious coverage. And then the mayor and council asked the planning board to put it into words.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Just wanted to make
Now we
sure.
have the complete circle.
Thank you.
Anita Pagarelli, First Avenue. Does anyone know why the Ocean Avenue Bridge has been closed for 2 days and the progress of whatever they're doing?
Mr. Kane, is that related to the striping and the new, we know they're going to do something more permanent with regard to the way they repainted the lines. I don't know if you've been up there. They've made like triangular, and we knew they were going to do something a little more permanent, but I'm not sure that that's what's going on. Unless Mr. Kane has any
The
more
traffic
information.
calming in front of the fishing club
Right.
was done over the summer. What they did, the roads are wide there, so they made a perception to try to narrow it to slow traffic coming over the bridge. I think the reason for the bridge, now they're going to be doing a fender repair system over the winter, and it could be some preliminary work. They're going to be having a meeting. We've already had a meeting talking about what they want to do. Basically, the guardrails in the water, by the bridge, they're going to be replacing those. So this could be some preliminary work that they're doing in anticipation of that work for over the winter.
Okay. About a month ago or so, the water in my apartment was turned off for about 7 hours due to like an infrastructure issue. Where do we stand on the infrastructure in Belmar? It's over 150 years old. There was talk of a master plan. Has been begun or anything?
The simple answer is yes. To try to get into where we stand would probably require us to be here until at least the early hours of the morning. But yes, it's being looked at, it's being addressed. There are many, many different variables that have to be looked at, and I promise that the public will be, involved in all of the information that we have, and progressively as we go through it. Any other questions? Why don't you come on?
Mark Montenegaro, 101 River Court. I also would like to praise DPW. We walk on the marina side of the bay there several times a week. And after that big rainstorm we had several weeks ago, if you walked that, you noticed that many of the pavers were just all over the place. I mean, sunken rays and that sort of thing. A few days later we came by and they were fixed. So we caught your people the other night, and not only were we thanking them and they were gracious for it, they always take a moment to explain and tell you other details about it. So I think that's really important in our town. When they're on our property, I usually come out and say hi. They tell me everything about it, things I don't even ask, which is just really terrific. So I appreciate that. I also have two questions. One, there's a strip of property at the end of McCleary between the basin and Route 35. I know Route 35 is not a town property, but I would assume that that strip is, and some work was done over the summer clearing it of trees, and it looked like they were putting in a pathway. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
The only thing I'm familiar, unless you know.
I think they were doing a bulkhead repair along Route 35 there.
Who's that?
It's the Department of Transportation.
So not
Not
the
us,
town.
not
Okay.
the town. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So that, and also, this is a strange question, but one of our neighbors passed away, and whether it's a coincidence or not, 4 kids took up residence in our backyard shortly thereafter, so we're assuming that they were taken care of, but now we are by default. We're trying to socialize them so that they can be adopted, but as I called 7 different rescue places, including the SPCA, the Humane Society, Asbury, whatever they're called, all these different places, they said that many of them are overwhelmed with this, and several of them pointed me to towns and said, well, you just reach out to your town, they have arrangements, and every place that I called said, well, Belmar doesn't have such an arrangement. So is that something, this is a quality of, not that I mind taking care of these kittens, but it is a quality of life issue. Eventually I'm gonna get tired of cleaning up their stuff in my backyard, and I do want them to be in homes, which we cannot have because we have an older cat. So I know that sounds minor, but there are a lot of stray cats that you see around, and I'm wondering if we have.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what we have. I know we do a contract with the Monmouth SPCA.
Not according to them.
I think we do.
What about maybe April?
April, yeah.
And what is that arrangement?
I believe a call would have to be made to the police department, and then they would reach out to the Humane Society to see if they can come and get them.
Oh yes, that's correct. What other towns have in place though is an arrangement where you can get low-cost spaying, which I'm willing to pay for these critters. If they can't be adopted, I'd be happy to have them spayed and paid for.
We don't have that.
Yeah, we have to look into that. That's the first time hearing.
If I just go to a veterinarian, it's $100, but some of these towns have the arrangement where it's because it's a stray.
We'll look into it. Let's see if we can find out one of the towns too.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pat Lonnie Street in town. Mayor, if it's okay, tree collapses couldn't be here tonight because of an obligation with the food bank that she works for, and asked if I would read, this is a question.
Absolutely.
Mark, if that's okay? Thank you, Mayor. It has to do with the infrastructure. As we know, Belmar's water and sewer infrastructure is in very bad shape. The rains this fall have been very detrimental to many homeowners, the worst since Hurricane Sandy. We have not heard or seen any attention to this problem from this administration. The Walsifer administration had a complete and comprehensive map drawn by the borough engineering firm Avakian, thereby setting up the Transportation Trust Fund grant to be awarded every year because there was a clear plan on that map. This is my understanding that the map is still in Borough Hall somewhere. Also completed under the Walsifer administration was the piping and paving of 12th, 15th, 16th, Inlet Terrace, River Avenue, and Railroad Avenue, with 13th and 12th Avenue pending. When you took over, which I noticed this administration took credit for. Mark, this is for you. Mark, when you ran for council, you said you had a 10-year plan for our infrastructure. It is disingenuous at best.
Excuse me, Pat.
Yeah, I'm about, it's finished.
No, but
Just let us
that's
know what your
incorrect.
plan was.
That's incorrect. I did not say I had a 10-year plan.
Okay.
The
I'm just-
previous
Mark,
administration
don't
claimed
kill
that
the
they had
baby.
a 10-year plan.
I'm just.
I did not.
reading.
I called them out because they did not have a 10-year plan.
Yeah, they did. But anyway, I'm not gonna argue with that. But that's
We don't.
basically, she wants to know
We have a 10-page PDF, if that helps.
where your plan is. I'm just reading, if you have a plan.
We're trying to develop a plan. It takes more than 1 year to make a plan.
Okay, and as far as the ASPCA goes, we had trouble the same way. If there's a will involved, if somebody dies and leaves the cats, they wanna look at the death certificate. It was terrible trying to get rid of a couple cats. This is not unusual. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Sandy Caputo, Surf Avenue. I did not know that any of our ambulances were in Manasquan. What does that mean now? Is the personnel that operates them and does what needs to be done, they're also in Manasquan?
I'd have to ask, Mr. King, it's a shared service.
Yeah, there's a shared service agreement between Belmar, Lake Como, Manasquan, and Seagirt. So what they've done, they split it up in the north and south. So the EMS covering Belmar, Lake Como are currently in the old First Aid building in Lake Como, and the south is in the Belmar, Manasquan First Aid building. So it's the same, it's a shared service covering 4 towns, and the result of the shared service are tremendous as far as response times and everything. So it's working very well.
So there is personnel in Lake Como with that ambulance?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And as far as the feral cats, he's correct. I've done a lot of work with this, and I've been on the phone many times. And if you'd like to speak with me, we could do that. But several years ago, we had some feral cats by us. I caught them and worked with Monmouth County SPCA out in off 35.
Right, yeah.
Okay. They were very nice about it. I had a relationship with them. They let me traps. I caught a couple. They're fixed. They fix them, they bring them back. But after about 2 years, I was told that they were basically just working with me. That Belmar does not participate in this program. And if we did, other towns do. Last I heard, Lake Como did. Belmar does not participate. If we did, you could catch one either with one of their traps or not. And you have 4 days. You could take them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday out to Eatontown. I've driven cats out there, but sometimes they can come get them. They spay them and then release them back to where they were, which is fine because you can feed them for the rest of their natural life and there won't be any more kittens. But I guess maybe things got busy, they decided they're not gonna do this anymore with towns that don't participate. There's something of a program, it's 1 day a week, but even if you can catch the cat, if you don't participate, they don't guarantee you can do it, and I have to tell you, you can't catch feral cats on a schedule. It's, there's a local vet that will do it, and me too. I don't mind paying the fee, but it's the same thing. There's a certain time slot, and you need an appointment. So to make an appointment and then have the cat cooperate doesn't work. But if Belmar were to participate, then we would have 4 days in which and then you would know that they will take care of the cat on that. I guess they spay them overnight because they release them the next morning.
Right.
April's correct. We contract with them, but we don't contract with them for this. We contract with them for, am I right, Edward, catching a raccoon or something like that happens. So it's,
We'll definitely look into that. I mean, there's no reason why we wouldn't do it. It's just, I think, a matter of that we weren't aware of it. So it's the first time it's being brought up, so we'll definitely see what we can do.
yeah, thank you, okay.
Thank you. Well,
How are we? Sean DeSomo, Oakwood Road. Want to commend everybody on the robust back and forth this evening. Really great to see the mayor and council be willing to answer so many questions. So with that, I'll open with I'm gonna split this up into a couple parts. The first two will be me as just a resident, and then we'll get into some other stuff. Councilman Levis, when was the last time you took a walk down along the river?
A week ago.
Okay. How often, can you point out the locations where the borough has signs posted telling people not to harvest at the Elm Street Beach or anywhere in the river?
I don't know.
You don't, what do you mean you don't know?
I don't know where they have signs that say don't harvest. Where are you going?
Well, my question is, we don't have signs that say
No,
don't
we don't
harvest.
have signs.
So pretty much every night, I'll take the time. So pretty much every night in the summertime, you'll notice that there are people standing in the river. Some of them are Belmar residents, some of them are not. Every single night when it's warm out, every single one. Yet there's not a single sign posted. Now there are a couple tiny little, is it DEP? I think it's DEP. Posted signs down on the one entrance to the river, okay? Tiny, they're like this big. So if you don't happen to walk by that little sliver of the river, you'd potentially be apt to maybe go grab some oysters or some crab, right?
There's no oysters in the shrimp.
In the oyster, that's right, crab, right? So you got one. So do you think it makes sense maybe to post some signs so people don't get sick? Because you don't know where they are. I'm telling you, they're not there. So maybe we can do that. Just a quality of life issue for everybody. So nobody makes that mistake.
So we actually don't decide whether or not people are allowed to harvest shellfish, right? You understand that that's not.
I do understand that, but as the borough of Belmar, where this is located, maybe it makes sense to post some signs, like as a service to the community.
There have never been signs there for the last 60 years since shellfish.
Understood, but I see it every single day. Every single night people are eating crab that make them sick from there. They're out there harvesting every single night.
One person who has eaten crab in the Shark River and has come to you, that you've seen who's gotten sick.
Sure,
Okay?
no problem.
I don't see people doing it. So you're creating a problem that doesn't exist, that the state has already decided.
You're claiming that people don't do it, and I'm telling you that every single night in the summer, there are multiple people there. So maybe you don't spend enough time down by the river. So I would strongly suggest.
Can we just not have an argument here? Okay, we have to maintain the decorum. Really?
Okay. So I would strongly suggest.
There apparently are no signs at the marina regarding clams and crabs. You would like us to consider putting up those signs.
So people don't get sick.
We'll take it under consideration and let's just move on.
You'll take it under consideration, Councilman?
I'll see if
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my first point. My second is just, as a resident of Belmar, Mr. Mayor, every meeting we come to, we see people come up here, they ask you questions you don't know, and you ask a bunch of people, they maybe know a little, right? And it just seems like you're not on top of it, right? You don't know where we are on projects, you don't know a lot of these things. So I'll speak as a candidate now. Knocked on hundreds and hundreds of doors in this town. And the number one piece of feedback I get is, how do we get rid of this mayor? The buyer's remorse is so strong among residents all over town for this whole administration, right? So my question to you is, would you consider saving a lot of people a lot of time and just resigning yourself? Please.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is not campaign. Okay, you have the right to.
I have the right to say
You
say
have
what
the
I'd like
right
okay.
to make your
No problem.
speeches, but but, you know, you can have a soapbox, that's fine.
Okay.
You're allowed to, but we're not gonna go back and forth with those kind of questions, okay? Because that's really not borough business, that's your business.
No, no,
and
no,
that's
that,
fine.
no, that directly reflects to the job that the mayor is doing. So I wanted to relate that as a person who, I can speak as whatever I want, right?
Yeah,
Thank
for
you.
the hundreds of people who aren't here that also said the same thing, right?
Right, correct.
Right, okay. So
A lot of
we'll
people
just
are
have to
saying-
assume that that's all correct, so the hundreds of people.
I'm not a lawyer, I wouldn't
So-
ever stretch the truth.
So it's really time for public comment, so that's what we should have here, so, and you're entitled to, so
Yeah.
let's just do that. So whatever you have to say, let's just say it.
I'd like to ask some questions too.
Well,
Everyone else has been given that, afforded that, so I'd like to also.
I don't have any problems with questions, as long as they're to the Belmar's business and not to campaigning, okay?
Yeah, sure, you bet. So would you consider resigning?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Why don't you
Cool.
sit down?
Pardon?
Why don't you sit down?
Thank you.
You're making an ass of yourself.
So just kind of going down, Ms. Donovan, you've gotten to council and you told people that you are a patient advocate, right? That is what you've done for a living and that's what you do for a living. Do you stand by that?
What's your comment? Just make your
I will
comment.
make
If you
one.
have a point, just make it.
Everybody's running interference here. Understood.
First
You
of
know what we
all,
should
first
have?
of all questions are supposed to be made to me.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, would you?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay, so now we're doing that? Because before we changed the rules.
Well, I let you go, I was being a nice
No, I meant
guy.
for everybody else.
Mayor,
Um,
I'm happy
you
to
know.
answer a question about my job.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
next question?
The answer was yes.
Yeah, okay. So, the other piece of feedback I get from a lot of people is they feel as though you misrepresented your experience, right? You claim that you're a patient advocate, when in fact, you are and have been a DC lobbyist for around the last 15 years, and a
So-
political operative.
So this is how related, I know.
I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna get there.
This is a time for borough business,
I know,
not
I
for
get it.
campaigning. It's not a debate.
Again, we have a whole campaign team for the mayor and team here. I get it, you're stepping in. That's fine. Thank you.
Can I please answer that? I would like to.
Because that's not.
That is not true. And it's very easy to look up, because if you are a lobbyist, you have to register with the federal government. I'm not a lobbyist. I worked as a lobbyist 15 years ago for about 2 years. I didn't like it. I left, took half of my salary, went to go work for nuns for a year. And then I worked for the Patient Advocate Foundation, which is a 501c3 national charity and cannot legally lobby. Thank you.
Who that?
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to comment?
Yeah, Eugene Creamer, Fourth Avenue. I don't think I really need this. Eugene Creamer, Fourth Avenue. Yeah, I have a question about Belmar's affordable housing development fees. And this goes back to Mr. Bauman, that he was here. And my question is still, if you install or have installed a swimming pool on your property, do you have to pay or make a contribution to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund?
So the short answer to that is no, because it's, the ordinance is written to expansions of structures, the dwelling structure. So, a pool is not that. So, for that specific question, the answer is no, you wouldn't have to pay.
Chief, by the way, the borough's ordinance, chapter 42, does not define development. However, I did check in the Council on Affordable Housing, the definition of development. And I'm sorry, Mr. McGill, I have a different read on it. Anything, number one, anything that goes to a land use board would have to pay a development fee. But the definition of development in COA is is very broad, and would include even such things as an excavation, not even building a structure.
But I think that the ordinance is written in reference to the circumstances that you're talking about, an addition or a pool or something like that. It talks about not development. I understand development is a very broad definition, right? There is a land use definition, COA definition. I think they're the same, but they're very broad. But our ordinance only requires a fee on an expansion of a structure. So the ordinance doesn't use development. The ordinance uses the expansion of the structure in reference to the additions that may be put on or made to existing dwellings. So I think that's the difference. And we had this discussion with Mr. Baumann, who's our redevelopment attorney, because you've asked the question twice now, and fairly you need an answer. I thought he would be here to answer that, but apparently not. So it's mine. But the pool, in addition of a pool, while it may be addition to the property, it's not a addition to the structure. So the answer to the question is no. Now, could there be different interpretations? Yes. The law's full of that, and I respect yours. But the way we're going to handle it, that answer is going to be no.
Number one, the borough's ordinance does not define development.
That's correct.
Okay? However, the ordinance in its entirety is under the jurisdiction of COA or the courts now.
Well, it's approved by the court.
Okay? Shouldn't we be using the same definition of development that's included at, let's see, I'll just read this. It says development means a division of a parcel of land into two or more parcels. The construction, reconstruction, conversion, structural alteration, relocation, or enlargement of any use or change in the use of any building or other structure, or any mining, excavation, or landfill, and any use or change in use of any building or any structure or land or extension of the use of land, which permissions may be required by the municipal land use law. This would include, according to this definition, the planning board, I think at its last meeting, approved a sign on a building in Belmar Mall, which is a municipal land use approval.
But it goes to the value that's added to the property, and I don't know that a sign's going to add anything to an assessed value of a property. You know, when you're talking about small additions to a structure, it's very difficult to actually determine what the assessed value, the benefit, or the increase in assessment that's attributable to such, or to any small addition. In that sense, I don't think a sign adds to the property value at all. Not being an assessor, but I don't see how that really comes into play. And if it does at all, it's de minimis. So it'd be very difficult for an assessor to say, you know, that sign increases the value by $500. Therefore, you know, it's a 1.5% on $500. We'll see how it plays out, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay, excuse me, I'm glad you make reference to the tax assessor and his work. The tax assessor in Belmar, when you install a pool, the property card does include the pool. And we've had a number of them constructed right in my neighborhood. And by the way, I have evidence of that property card that where the assessor listed swimming pool and even determined what type of pool that it was. And likewise, let me just write this down here. Oh, my neighbor had a pool installed, 512 square feet. This is his property card. And he had installed a gunite pool, which is a form of concrete construction. And also there's excavation involved. But let's just, why don't we just clear up this ordinance? Number one, define what type of development a fee is going to be charged for. And if there's exclusions, and there are a couple of exclusions in the ordinance that the borough cannot collect a development fee for, but a swimming pool, our tax assessor in Belmar, and he abides by Monmouth County rules, does add swimming pools. And people pay an increased assessed value. And taxes are based upon that.
Could I add something? Just because I had this conversation with the tax assessor in Mr. Bauman's office. Section 3B of the ordinance, subsection 4, does say, it explains what is charged, and it says development fees shall be imposed and collected when an existing structure undergoes a change to a more intense use, is demolished and replaced, or is expanded, if the expansion is not otherwise exempt from the development fee. So that's the section that we're basing that pools do not count, because they're not, like what you said earlier.
Right.
And that's in the ordinance.
What section was that? I'm sorry.
It's section 3B4.
Was that same section included in the ordinance that was adopted in August of 2019?
That I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at it.
Okay.
It's a section 42-3, and it doesn't have a reference to an older ordinance. It just says it was added on 8/8/2023. So it's it's obviously not amending a prior ordinance, or else it would have the prior date of the ordinance there. So, but it referred to as 42-3B. What was it? B4. B4.
Yeah, it looks like it was added in August.
Yeah, it was just it's a new section. Yes. Because the prior ordinance was deleted in its entirety, if I remember correctly. Right, the prior.
It was.
Yeah.
Excuse me, not as it's codified on the borough's website. The last paragraph, by the way, that was not Mr. Bauman that night. There was, I guess, an associate of his, a woman attorney was here. And this question similar question had come up about the existing ordinance. And we can check the public record, we can certainly check the minutes of the meeting. But she made it clear to us that this did not invalidate the Belmar Affordable Housing Development Fee Ordinance that was adopted in August of 2019.
We have to be careful about the words that we use. Invalidate. That ordinance itself was not in effect, because the ordinance itself said it only will take effect if it was approved by COA. Now, we all understand that COA, the courts took over for COA. So that ordinance was not ever in effect because it never was approved by either COA or the courts. What we did with this new ordinance, we had this ordinance approved. So this ordinance is now in effect as the day of the adoption, 20 days thereafter. However, that first one, although it was in our books, right, it said, in the ordinance itself, it said this is not effective until it's approved. It never was approved. So we never had any right to collect those fees that ordinance discussed. What should have happened, that ordinance should have went to COA or to the court, and the court, because we'll leave COA out of this because we know it's out. The court would have reviewed it, approved it. Let's say it approved it. It was very similar to the one we had approved. And then it would be in effect, but that never occurred. Never occurred. So the only ordinance that ever was approved was the one that we adopted in August. So that's the only one that we ever could collect fees under. So although it's on our books, it was not effective. We had no right to collect any fees. So we didn't miss any. Just so everybody understands, we didn't miss the collection of any fees. We never had the right to collect them. We never had an affordable housing plan.
So what you're saying is that all the development that's taken part in town here, and we had people on our land use boards that were making decisions based upon their assumption, let's call it that our affordable housing development fee ordinance would take care, or I should say, the developer would have to pay. In other words, that's what I meant by invalidate. We had land use board members that had approved things. For instance, 22 market-based units in a single-family residential zone. Those board members knew that a 6% development fee would be paid for affordable housing on that development. Now I guess what you're informing us is that that those developers that develop in town here are off the hook.
I can't go back and speak to any application that was before the board, and I certainly don't know what anybody thought in reference to that ordinance. The only thing I can say is anything before August, there's no ordinance in effect before August. So whatever anybody thought on the board, whatever they did, whatever they said, I can't really talk to that because I have no facts. I don't know what transpired. But that ordinance was not in effect. If anybody thought that it was, it wasn't.
Well, I'm just wondering how many millions of dollars now is left on the table. And,
Well, none. None. Because the steps were never taken that's exactly what we're doing. That's why we're doing the affordable housing, so that we can get all this stuff in a row. But get our ducks in a row is what I wanted to say. But yeah, none. We didn't leave any on the table. It's not like we didn't collect anything we would deserve. We didn't deserve anything. We didn't take the next step. I mean, it was a good first step. The second step should have been taken. It wasn't.
I'm very disappointed because
I live here too. I live too.
For the last 3 years, I had that very question: when is this going to take? When is the town actually going to implement this? Back to the prior administration.
Right.
And I was told by a member of the council who also sat on the planning board, said that the land use boards don't have to worry about affordable housing because we have that covered by a separate section in the code. Chapter 40 is development regulations. Chapter 42 is affordable housing development fees. And those board members and the public were led to believe that if somebody got D variances to increase the density of development on a piece of property, that they would pay for it paying the fees. Now you're saying that,
No, it's not now I'm saying. I never said that to begin with, but you just said, somebody else said that. I didn't say that. Now I'm telling you what the law is. So this is the way it is. So I never said anything different. So I don't want that to get out like now I'm saying, or now we're saying. We're not now saying anything.
okay. But you're a
I gotta,
resident.
I gotta
Okay,
make that
well,
clear.
by the same question, you've been a resident in town for many years. And you've also been an attorney representing land use matters in this town. Why didn't you say something?
I never had an affordable housing issue. All my people were looking for fences and things. We didn't, I'm just a little guy on 10th Avenue. I don't have big.
You never had a pool application?
Well, I think that's a new ordinance, isn't it?
I think we have a hand, Linda?
I think I could stand next to it, thank you. Linda Sharkis, 4th Avenue. Some of us have allergies, and I don't understand why fragrance is being piped in this room or why the carpets were clean with it, but my throat is going dry, my face is all flushed. Does anybody else smell it? Okay, can we try to get rid of it? Because we've only been here an hour and less than an hour and a half.
We think it might be the judge or the court, whoever is here all day long, because
Yeah, it's unacceptable in a public.
Can we leave a note, sticky note?
We'll investigate it. See
I
what-
appreciate that.
Some
I swear
bottom
you need
here.
a Lawson or something like that. I just
Yeah.
want to.
It's dry, I will tell you that's very dry.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Drew Fromkin, South Lake Drive. I did not intend to speak tonight. I was just coming from my bi-weekly enjoyment of the council meetings. Nothing else to do in this world. But I did want to say, I'm not going to go into any of the follow-up, but I was just appalled at what just happened in this council room. Irrespective of whether this gentleman has some points that are valid, and we have a lot to do with this administration to get things right, his attack on Ms. Donovan, Councilwoman Donovan, were totally inappropriate. And if this does not speak to the constitution of this gentleman and his ability to truly represent this town, I don't know what will speak to that. I hope everybody watches this council meeting. I think this is the candidate, right? Yeah, or some other definition. So I want to be very clear for the record that while he makes some points and there are things we need to look at, I feel like Councilwoman Donovan has done a tremendous job in the short tenure that she's had. That she's in a tremendous position alongside the other council people here to make a huge difference for this town. And I believe she's right on the cusp of making some things happen here that will be tremendously important for our town. I would love to see a great debate in this town. I would love to see, excellent candidates in this town come forth. But that was a blank show. And if anybody votes for this fellow, I think we're doing a huge disservice for Belmar. And I want to say, the last thing I want to say is that I think Katie has done a great job. She deserves another term. And she has tremendous constraint. And I think maturity in the way she handled that situation. So I just wanted to be on the record for that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Please step forward. Okay.
Can I have a motion to close the public session?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next we have resolution authorizing an executive session. This is a resolution whereas it's been determined by the Borough Council of the Borough of Belmar that it is necessary to discuss the following specific matter at its regular meeting in the absence of the public, which is pending or anticipated litigation regarding affordable housing and the attorney-client privilege communications related thereto, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act permits the Borough Council to exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting during which such matters are discussed. Now therefore be it resolved by the Borough Council as follows, that the Borough Council shall forthwith recess into a private executive session from which the public shall be excluded to discuss the above referenced matters, that the scope of the aforesaid executive session shall be limited to the above matters as stated, that those matters discussed in executive session shall remain confidential until such time as the need for confidentiality no longer exists as determined by the borough attorney, that the minutes of the closed session shall be taken by the clerk of the borough and kept free from public view until such time that the need for confidentiality no longer exists, and that the regular meeting of the council shall resume after the private executive session, at which time the borough council may or may not take action in reference to the topic discussed. We have a motion to authorize that resolution.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Councilwoman Donovan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kinney?
Yes.
Mayor Buckafesco?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rondonero?
Yes.
Councilman Levis?
Yes.
lost the councilman.
Who lost a councilman?
So you're still here?
We have to sit?
I don't think you do.
Oh. Better sleep tonight.
To adjourn?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All are in favor.
All right.
That's it. Overseen by.
Mark is gonna walk out.